Once in every lifetime comes a love like this. Oh, I need you, you need me. Oh, my darling, can't you see? Young ones, darling, we're the young ones. The young ones shouldn't be afraid to live, love. There's a song to be sung, 'cause we may not be the young ones very long.
Well, a very light-hearted way to begin today's farewell. I know the theme song for the young ones was something that both Adrian and Tegan thought would be most appropriate to share. It was one of Tegan and her mum's favourite shows. I think Adrian said that they knew every line of every word of the show, and they really wanted to start today's sad day with something a little bit more lighthearted. So, perfect start. Before we begin, could I remind you, and I know there's a couple over here that have just taken their phones off, if you could switch your phones off or pop them onto silent for the service, that really would be much appreciated. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for being here as we gather in loving memory of Carolyn. With the spirit of love and friendship that you each bring, this service will be made even more special and meaningful. And I know that Adrian, Tegan, and all of Carolyn's family appreciate your love and your support at this sad time. Looking out this afternoon, it's clear how much Carolyn was loved. Her family are so proud of the impact her life has made. Her life impacted and touched so many lives profoundly in so many different ways, and they are also thankful to each of you for taking this time to be here. My name is Gina Breakey, and it really is an honour to have been invited to lead today's service. It is my hope that every part of this afternoon will pay tribute to Carolyn in a meaningful way and reflect on the many qualities that made her so special. Well, firstly, to Adrian, to Tegan, and to all of Carolyn's family, we are so sorry for your loss. There's no question the past year has been a challenging and tough time, and we know that Carolyn's death is hard to accept. As you process her passing quietly and in your own time, I hope you can take comfort knowing how much Carolyn was loved and how much she was loved in return. This afternoon, as we honour her life and celebrate her life, you are surrounded by some amazing people, and I'm sure it will be the constant love and support of everyone here this afternoon that will bring some peace and in time healing during this moment of sadness and change. At just 53 years of age, there's no question that Carolyn has left us before we were ready to say goodbye. But knowing her struggles are over and she is now at peace, I hope can bring you some comfort. Whether we let ourselves smile, and no matter how many tears fall, it is important that we try not to dwell on the sadness and instead focus on the happy times and be thankful to have shared in her life. It was also important to Adrian and Tegan that we don't let this past year define Carolyn's life. They want today to celebrate everything about her, today to be an opportunity to tell stories and reflect on your beautiful memories. And we can only hope that she's looking down on us this afternoon and she's smiling. Well, to begin, it's important that we acknowledge the people who are most special in Carolyn's life. Her loving husband, Adrian, her daughter, Tegan, her two precious granddaughters, Maeve and Poet, her parents, Gordon and Sue, and her brothers, David and his wife, Sally, Michael and Ellen, who is deceased, and their families. Along with extended family, including Adrian's children, Maddie and Tom, and to everyone else here this afternoon, you were an important part of Carolyn's life. And I'm sure if she could, she would thank you all for the love and the friendships that have been shared. As you each take this time to remember her in your own special way, may it warmly remind you of how much she has meant to so many. When preparing for this service, I recently met with Adrian and Tegan, and they shared with me a little about Carolyn's life. One of the first things that Adrian told me was that Carolyn's diagnosis forced them to sharpen their focus and concentrate on the things that really mattered: family, friends, and important time together. Without this focus, it's easy to coast along, go to work, come home, get caught up in daily life and have the occasional holiday. Often we forget to live and laugh and enjoy, and that's exactly what Carolyn was determined to do. For the past year, even though it wasn't always easy, she managed to make memories with her family. She got to connect with friends when she wasn't having treatment, and she got the chance to tell all of the people that she loved them. Adrian and Tegan were by Carolyn's side through all of the good times and the not so good times, and they were each other's support as they have navigated the past few very challenging months. Family and close friends have also been wonderful, of which Adrian and Tegan are so grateful, and I hope that everyone this afternoon can leave with a sense of gratitude that you have shared in Carolyn's life. Well, here is just a little about her life as remembered by Adrian and Tegan. Born in your lawn to parents Gordon and Sue, and growing up in Churchill, Carolyn had three younger brothers, David, Michael and Alan, whom she was very close to growing up. Being the eldest, she became a motherly figure to all of them. Her brothers looked to her as a loving and caring big sister, and they remained a very important part of her life. The unexpected passing of Alan at 17 was difficult for the entire family, and Carolyn carried a sense of his loss throughout her life. Well, as a young girl, Carolyn wasn't at all sporty. Instead, she loved to read, and she matured into an informed and socially conscious young woman, but with a large rebellious streak. Carolyn attended Maryvale High School, and in her teens she joined Youth Parliament, which empowers young people to stand up and be heard in Parliament chambers. She played a role in introducing recommendations for mandatory bike helmets to be put into place, of which she was very proud. Well, Carolyn met her first serious boyfriend, Mark, at the age of 18. They married when she was 19, and just 2 days short of her 20th birthday, she gave birth to her beautiful daughter Tegan. Living in Traralgon, Carolyn worked as a cleaner in the operating theatre at the Traralgon Hospital. When Tegan was around 8 years old, they moved to East Gippsland and lived with Mark's parents for a while before moving into a house near the ferry on Raymond Island. Tegan shared memories of their home on Raymond Island being the party house. Carolyn loved having friends over, and they ended up getting evicted because of one New Year's Eve party that apparently lasted for weeks. Well, Carolyn worked at the Painesville nursing home, now Opal, and she also cleaned holiday houses. She wasn't afraid to give anything a go. She was very capable and very good at her job at Opal, and it didn't go unnoticed. She connected with the elderly residents easily, and she went on to complete a certificate in diversional therapy. She was excellent at planning interesting activities, which followed with a job as coordinator of the planned activity group here in Bairnsdale. Well, Carolyn and Mark separated, and after moving around a bit, she and Tegan eventually ended up living in Dukes Road, Bruthen. This home quickly became her happy place. Carolyn had never had a passport until 2010, and a big trip to the USA was planned. At the last minute, the trip had to be cancelled, and after a couple of days of hiding under the doona in disappointment, she pulled herself up by the bootstraps. She flew to Darwin and hired a wicked van and travelled throughout the Northern Territory solo. She was never by herself for long, as everywhere she camped, people wanted to adopt her, care for her, and cook her a meal. Then, around 12 years ago, life changed in the best possible way when Adrian came into her and Tegan's life. Adrian had known of Carolyn during his time as a taxi driver. He spent time driving the wheelchair taxi around, and after picking up elderly residents and their wheelie walkers and dropping them off at the centre, he had noticed Carolyn a few times. Eventually, he made up some excuses as coordinator of the wheelchair taxi fleet to come out and sort out the transport roster. Adrian assumed that someone as nice as Carolyn must be married or have a partner, so he asked 90-year-old Peggy to find out her marital status before going any further. Good old Peggy found out that Carolyn was single, so Adrian was happy to ask her out. It was then at Tegan's 21st birthday when Carolyn told her that Adrian had just messaged and asked her out on a date. Carolyn was so worried and nervous, as it had been just her and Tegan for so long. She was unsure if she was ready for a relationship. At the beginning, neither of them knew how to do this couple thing. Adrian joined Carolyn on a trip to Hong Kong for an AA convention in November that year, along with her good friend Laurie. That was an interesting trip, to say the least, lots of highlights, but it didn't really end as planned. They had a quiet trip back home and they went their own way. 6 weeks later, Adrian was recruited to work at the planned activity group, and Carolyn then became his boss. It didn't take them long to rekindle the romance, and after lots of messaging, like a couple of teenagers, they decided that they wanted to be together and sealed it with a wedding in Bruthen on the 2nd of November 2013. It was a very happy day with family and friends, and it was a day that both Adrian and Carolyn remembered with lots of fondness. Well, Carolyn left PAG and went to work at Now Young, where she ended up being Tegan's boss. She absolutely loved working with people with disabilities, and she loved working with Tegan and nurturing her care and compassion. After Now Young, Carolyn went to work at La Trobe Community Health, where she was responsible for the intake of home care packages for Victoria. She was excellent at connecting with people, and she had a real way of making the confusing aged care process a lot simpler. She then went back to Now Young for a short time, but it didn't take long to realise that ship had sailed. She was the sort of person that gave 100% or not at all. Carolyn was passionate about her work in the health sector, and eventually she worked for herself as a support worker for people living with dementia and also those with age-related difficulties. Carolyn's gift was getting to the heart of what really mattered to people very quickly. She had a great understanding of people and was genuinely interested in their stories, what they wanted to do and how they wanted to live their life, and she would implement it into an activity or a plan. Carolyn was so good at her job that she was even invited to speak at state level on goal-directed career planning, something that her family are very proud of. Well, Carolyn also worked at Aruma Disability Services, providing supported accommodation for people living with a disability, and she managed 2 houses in Bairnsdale and Lakes Entrance. She also never stopped learning. Carolyn returned to study, and after lots of hard work, she achieved her associate degree in arts, business and science through Deakin University, which she was immensely proud of. Through these various jobs and roles in East Gippsland, Carolyn met people from all walks of life. She made friends easily, and she was respected by everyone who worked with her and for her. Of course, family was always important, and any chance she could, she would spend time with Tegan, and in more recent years, her granddaughters Maeve and Poet. They really were the loves of her life. Mornings with Bluey and pancakes will never be the same, but they will be always remembered as such a special time. Well, music was another love, and she and Adrian would go to concerts at any chance they could. Flogging Molly, Ed Sheeran, Live, U2, the Rubens, Mumford & Sons, the Passenger concert in London, and she saw Prince and Pink with Tegan. Red Hot Summer Tour, Somersault and Peninsula Picnic were all high on the list of things to do. A highlight was travelling to the Big Red Bash in Birdsville, the most remote music festival in the world, and subsequently the Monday Bash near Broken Hill the following year. Carolyn and Adrian shared a love of music. It was one of the things that drew them together, and she had a special love of 80s music and movies. Tegan also fondly remembers when she was a young girl, her mum would sing The Rose to her at night as she tucked her into bed. Well, Adrian has spent a lot of time in recent weeks reflecting on his life with Carolyn, all with a lot of happiness and gratitude. They had a happy marriage. They were by each other's side through all of life's adventures, and they had some awesome experiences together. They were always planning the next trip. Unfortunately, however, COVID restrictions forced the cancellation of trips to Hawaii and Japan, but they did get to visit over 26 countries together. Well, Carolyn had an addictive personality. She smoked and drank for many years, but she made the decision to give up alcohol 18 years ago. She was grateful for the support of the Fellowship of AA in achieving sobriety and for allowing her to take her life back and being her authentic self. 13 years ago, she also gave up cigarettes and put the equivalent money aside. Suffice to say, she saved a lot of money, and that became the travel fund for them both, which also paid for the house deposit and the wedding. She was also addicted to coffee, which I'm sure everyone here would know, medium latte, no sugar, and even has a tattoo on her arm that says, "Death before decaf." As Adrian and Carolyn were saving for a 4-month trip to Europe, they decided to purchase an Aldi espresso machine instead of spending the several thousands a year in takeaway coffees. Well, Carolyn, I'm sure, will be remembered by everyone here as a most generous and compassionate woman. Her door was always open, and she would do anything for her family and friends. Her brother Mick has lived with Carolyn and Adrian for the past 4 months, and so has her good friend Laurie. There was nothing she wouldn't do for the people that she cared about. It was around 12 months ago that Carolyn received her cancer diagnosis. She took the bull by the horns, and with Adrian, they made a conscious effort to make the most of whatever was ahead of them. Earlier this year, Adrian gave up work to care for Carolyn, and they went on a trip to Darwin to see her brother David. They also got to the annual Monday Bash in outback New South Wales, which was challenging, but they did it. With the help of her wheelie walker, Carolyn was also one of the 6,594 record holders doing the Nutbush City Limits dance. She lasted the full 5 minutes. She loved being a part of the action, and she was almost trampled by the bogans, that was Adrian's word, not mine, at the front of the mosh pit for chocolate starfish. They also purchased a motorhome with the hope of getting away. 10 weeks of dreaming, planning and researching really gave Carolyn something to hope for, and they did manage one trip together. Well, looking ahead and never feeling sorry for herself was how Carolyn lived the last few months of her life. She was always thinking about the next concert, the next holiday or the next adventure, and it was her positive and spirited nature that her family want us all to continue to remember today. There was so much to share when I was chatting with Adrian and Tegan, and I know that these tributes that we're about to hear are going to really encapsulate how special she was in her family and friends' lives. On that note, I would like to ask David to come forward and share with us a little about his sister. Thanks, David.
Good afternoon all. I'm Carolyn's brother Dave, and I'm speaking today in reflection of Carolyn's life on behalf of her family. Carolyn's mother Sue, father Gordon, brothers Mick and Alan deceased, and sister-in-law Sally. Firstly, my family would like to extend our heartfelt love, sympathy and condolences to Adrian and Tegan. To Adrian, whilst your time with Carolyn has been cut so very short, we could not be more grateful for the love, support and dedication you have provided Carolyn. We're also grateful that you guided Carolyn in assisting her to overcome her fears and anxieties, which led her to become a more self-assured and confident human being. We're also thankful for the love, care and compassion you provided Carolyn, not only in your time with her, but during her illness and in her final days on this earth. To Tegan, no words can express the loss of a mother, particularly a mother who loves, adores and cherishes her daughter, as your mother did with you. You can rest easy knowing that your mum loved you with everything she had and more. She also loved and adored Maeve and Poet as their Lolly, and she absolutely loved being a grandmother. As I mentioned to you, things will get rough from time to time, but you can rest assured that we'll be there to support you when needed. As we gaze upon Carolyn's coffin today, we should not picture it as an object of sadness and despair, but rather an object of love and happiness for a life well lived, even if it was cut so short. Carolyn would not want us to weep for her, but if only for a short time, but rather have us remember and celebrate her life for the kind, generous, brave, spirited, stoic, determined, optimistic, caring and loving human she was. In this, we gather here today in thanksgiving for being able to have shared our own bonds in connection with Carolyn, as we reflect, remember and rejoice in her life. Carolyn May Roberts was the first child and only daughter born to Sue and Gordon Nutt on the 31st of May 1970. And according to her mother and father, she was a very cute, adorable and placid baby. Carolyn had 3 brothers, and being the eldest, she was always seeking to have the upper hand and boss us around quite considerably, or tell tales to have us reprimanded by mum and dad. I must admit though, this wasn't very often, and must be said, as brothers, we all looked up to Carolyn with much pride and admiration. In her formative years, Carolyn attended Churchill North Primary School and later Maryvale High School, where it could be said she wasn't very academic, but rather very shy, reserved and lacking a degree of self-assurance. And this lack of self-assurance would be endured for the remainder of her life. To make up for this, Carolyn used her undying wit, humour and charm to create positive impressions amongst her friends, peers and teachers alike, which helped her to influence her social circles and schooling achievements. During this time, Carolyn met Mary, who has become her lifelong friend and confidant. If you ask Mary, Mary is not only Carolyn's friend, but her sister. A sentiment which stands true to our family, and we adopt Mary with open and loving arms. In the many years following our childhood growing up in Churchill, Carolyn and I would often reflect together and talk about the many memories we shared together. And I'd like to share several of those with you today. In the early days growing up in any town, it was not uncommon for a parent to bellow for their children to come inside. Whilst this appears to be somewhat benign, at our house our mother would quite often bellow, "Carolyn, David," from the back door. However, unbeknown to Mum, there was a cocky that was caged out in the neighbour's property, who soon learned to bellow the same catchphrase. So on multiple occasions, every day the cocky would be heard to screech, "Carolyn, David." Soon after, I think Mum stopped calling for us out of embarrassment, not only for herself, but for Carolyn and I. On another occasion, and during some household renovations, Carolyn and I had some sort of disagreement and altercation, which resulted in Carolyn suffering a black eye, of which I was a culprit, although I'm sure it was an accident. After the dust settled and thinking that was the end of it, we went our separate ways. This was until, a little known to me, I was walking through the laundry passageway only to be ambushed by Carolyn, offering a dose of payback by wrapping a wooden carpet railing with nails facing out around my forehead. Of course, Carolyn took further delight when I got berated by Dad. Double whammy for me. Succeeding high school, Carolyn met and married her first husband, Mark, moving to Traralgon, at which time Carolyn fell pregnant and gave birth to her only child and daughter, Tegan. After a short period, Carolyn moved to Raymond Island, where she spent many years. In her final days on this earth, Carolyn, through a mixture of fear, anxiety, resilience and conviction, found the strength to endure until the very end. It is through this act of will and determination that we should take solace in knowing that Carolyn fought with all her might, and that she no longer feels pain, discomfort, and the ever-present anxiety and fear of death and dying, but to know that she is at peace. Where we seek to find comfort, we can find it. In our hearts and minds, with our cherished memories and love of Carolyn. No matter how well or long you knew her, Carolyn has left an indelible mark on everyone she has met. Whether this was through a kindness, compassion, humour, loudness, tough-headedness, ability to speak the truth, and her astute way with words. Our family will miss her incredibly, as no doubt all of you will. Carolyn has always tackled obstacles in her path with a willingness and determination to overcome and challenge all in her way. Cancer has been no exception, and she certainly kicked the can as far down the road as she could. Inevitably, until the can couldn't be kicked any further. This is true testament to the person Carolyn was, and although cancer took its toll, Carolyn won out in the end by fighting her illness until the bittersweet end. If there was a first place for dying, I'm sure Carolyn would have taken home the trophy. Throughout the remainder of our own lives, I sincerely ask that when you are having a quiet, peaceful moment, whether this be gazing at the stars at night, admiring the sunrise or the sunset, or just walking down the street, you just take a moment to have a thought and remember Carolyn. There are no words to express how much our family love and will miss her. If there is such a thing, we truly hope that you have reunited with our dear brother Alan and join him to guide and look over us. May you rest in everlasting peace.
Hello. Hello. I'm Mary, Carolyn's best friend and, yes, soul sister. Sorry in advance. I'm not a public speaker at all. That was Carolyn's thing. Granted, plenty of practice. Usually it started with, hello, I'm Carolyn and I'm an alcoholic. And Cal was proud of her sobriety. It was part of who she was. She would joke with me how lucky I was to have a sober friend, to go on grog runs and be the Desi driver. That right there is a bit of classic Carolyn humour. I was given instructions at her bedside not to be boring when speaking about her. Carolyn and I met in Year 7. We got into an animated conversation about a brain space of a camel. That was the day we connected and I knew I'd found my person. We could talk about random things that would take us away from our everyday lives. Nutty, as she was known to many, was a trusting soul. Actually, she was a bit of a bunny at school. You could tell her anything and she would believe it, which led her to being stuck in the boys' toilets a few times over recess. Someone would put up a sign or tell her that the girls' toilets were out of order and you had to use the boys'. Nutty would go in, but once she was in there, she'd realise that it wasn't true. Then she'd have to stay in there until the coast was clear, and me being a good friend, I'd leave her there. We were always coming up with crazy ideas. We'd look at each other and go, yeah, let's do that. Like the time we thought it was a great idea to tie her between two trees, spread eagle at school camp. It was wet, muddy, and again, being the good friend that I am, I threw mud at her and then invited others to join in. It was heaps of fun. She had to sit on the school bus until she had to sit on the school bus all the way home, cold and crusty. I'm sure you got the clothes that had to... Yeah, that was me, sorry. Okay. Cal was never into sports, as someone else has said. She actually was a bit uncoordinated. We did do outdoor activities like quad bike riding or skiing. It was usually Carolyn that would stack in a huge way. So when we went skiing and she remained upright, I was most impressed. I was falling all over the place, but Carolyn remained upright. That wasn't until we got the confidence to go on a ski run. Carolyn went speeding past me and I rounded the corner and I thought, wow, look at her go. That was until I rounded the corner and Carolyn had disappeared. She hadn't rounded the corner, she'd gone straight off the edge. It was about 7 weeks later, after returning from the ski trip, she called me to tell me she was about 7 weeks pregnant. Over the years, we've shared many memories and moments. We've made wonderful memories that I will treasure always. From school days, to party and clubbing days, to mum and being wife days, then on to empty nesters and travel buddies. I was maid of honour at Carolyn's wedding. She was matron honour at mine. Our daughters even share the same birth date, 5 years apart. And we joke all the time how much Tegan was like me and my daughter was like Cal. We have been blessed to watch each other's children grow up into amazing adults. We've travelled the world, experienced different cultures and places together for the first time. We had planned to visit more places and make more wonderful memories. We'd even talked about growing old together and how it would be us tearing up and down the hallways in the nursing home with our wheelie walkers. Carolyn had her own unique style, choosing to do things her way, and I admire the strength, always remaining true to herself. Cal did not judge people. on their appearance, the clothes they wore, or the status in society. She had an ability to see past the exterior and see the person within. And Carolyn was the kind of person who would dance with the homeless in Las Vegas, which she did. The person that would see someone standing alone in a crowd and she'd change directions to strike up a conversation so they wouldn't be alone. Carolyn entered a stormy period for a few years and went through some really hard times. I was worried because she was spiralling. But then, one day, I received a call telling me about this amazing human she'd met. I listened to her. She excitedly told me about her new man best friend, Loz. Must admit, I was a bit envious of this person I'd never met, that he got to spend so much time with her as I lived in Queensland. Over time, I could see what a good influence he was on her, helping her regain her strength and her confidence. Loz, Carolyn adored you. Thank you for helping her when she clearly needed help, and for always being there for her. Over the past 12 years that she has been with Adrian is the happiest I've seen Carolyn. Adrian, you were always her safe place, the person she knew that would always have her back no matter what. Thank you for taking amazing care of Carolyn, not just in the last, while she's been sick in the last 12 months, but for all those years before. Thank you for letting Carol be herself and never trying to change her. I've been there with her through her ups and downs, and watching you two together has been completely heartwarming. It's not often you get to witness pure, unconditional love, and that's exactly what you had with her. So thank you. Tegan, Carolyn, you were Carolyn's whole world from the minute you were born. She was super proud of all your achievements and the beautiful young lady you'd grown into. Cal was proud of the incredible mother. Cal was most proud of the incredible mother you are. She'd often tell me she wishes she'd been as good a mother as you. Your children gave her such joy. I'd loved listening to her go on and on about Maeve and Poet's antics. They were the sunshine in her life. Not every mother and daughter get to have a kind of closeness and openness you had with your mum. Cherish the memories and the fun times. They will give you some comfort. Losing Carolyn is like losing a part of myself. Carolyn would always say to me things like, Mez, I couldn't do life without you, and my life is way better with you in it. Truth is, I don't know how I'm going to do life without her. Sorry. A few months ago, I wrote a letter to Carolyn, and I'd like to share some of it with you. In life, we never know what's around the corner, and we don't say the things we should say. I want to take this opportunity to thank you. Thank you for befriending the scared, weird kid. Thank you for restoring my faith in humanity that was almost but lost. Thank you for never asking questions I didn't want to answer, and for keeping my secrets. For never making me feel stupid or dumb, even though I wasn't as clever or school smart as you. For not disowning me when I came to school with a bad perm and ugly dresses. Thank you for all the fun at high school, for all the crazy conversations, all the crazy antics, and saying, yeah, let's do that, when we probably shouldn't. Thank you for remaining by my side for more than 4 decades. I consider myself lucky to have you in my life, and blessed you chose to be in mine. As I age, I truly do believe everything happens for a reason, and we were supposed to meet each other. There are too many weird connections between us over the years to be a coincidence. You truly are my soulmate. I'm a better person for knowing you. Your wisdom and advice over the years have been invaluable to me. I value our friendship and wish everything could remain the same forever. You make the good times better and the hard times easier. You always brighten up a room when you enter and make people laugh at your uniqueness. I love you today, tomorrow and forever. In closing, I'd like to thank Sue, Gordon, David and Mick and their families for giving us Carolyn. She really was a wonderful, treasured gift to us all. Thank you.
My beautiful mum. If you ever got to meet my mum, you were always left feeling positive, grateful, and inspired to just be a better person. Her smile and infectious laugh would light up a room. Growing up, when my friends would come over, they would always say how cool she was, how pretty she was, and how lucky I am to have such a cool mum. I always knew how lucky I was to have such a special mum. When I was a kid, the first few years of my life were walking everywhere with mum. Because she didn't drive, I loved those walks. We would collect feathers, rocks, leaves, and we could call them our collections. Then mum would say, T, go find a special spot and hide the collection. To later finding out in later years, mum would get me to do that so there wasn't random stuff all over her house. It ended up being a good trick because I use it with my kids. My mum and I loved our pop culture. We loved watching 80s movies like Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, and The Breakfast Club. And then there was 80s music. That began my love of Prince, David Bowie, The Cure, Cyndi Lauper, etc. She also introduced me to the show The Young Ones, which we mentioned earlier. Every time we saw each other, we would quote our favourite parts, and she even got all my friends onto them too. Our favourite line was, Neil, your bedroom's on fire. It never got old. One thing my mum never understood was how proud I was of her. She used to think she embarrassed me, but that was never true. People would say we were just like the Gilmore Girls, or they'd say we looked like sisters. She'd say, much to Tegan's disgust, but I never thought that. I always knew the bond I had with my mum was like no other. She was my biggest advocate, my best friend, but always my parent. I'm so lucky I got a mum so wonderful, so loving, who taught me so many things, and a few of those things were always be kind, have integrity, always speak your truth. Materialistic stuff won't matter. Your relationships with people, always. Do things with love and always enjoy your morning coffee. I don't think there wasn't much I didn't tell my mum. Like, for example, when I was 16, I went to a party, kissed boys, had my first cigarette, and when I got home, I told Mum, wow, I kissed boys, I'm drunk, and I had my first cigarette, it was disgusting. And I'm drunk and I'm going to go to bed. She goes, okay, drunkie, I love you. I yell out, I love you more. I'm going to miss calling you 10 times a day, or just to tell you silly details of my day, or hear about yours. I'm already missing your voice. In this journey, I want to thank Adrian for showing my mum unconditional love. Something she felt she didn't deserve for a long time. But she found it, and she got a happily ever after. Thank you for being there for the worst and best times. You both got to live because you both took a chance and found each other, and what a beautiful love story of unconditional love, and shows that true love exists. Thank you, Mum, for making me a better person, a good friend, a good mum, and most importantly, a good daughter. You will always be the best lolly to my girls, and I promise to make sure they always know how much their lolly loved them and always wanted them to be their best selves. It brings me peace you're reunited with your baby brother, a 27-year-old hug you've been waiting for what feels like a lifetime. I'll meet you in the next life. Until then, my beautiful mum, I love you. Stay gold. Love, Teacup.
Where do you even start? Firstly, thank you to everyone for your love and your support, both in the lead up to Carolyn's passing and in this time of grieving since. And I know that Tegan, myself, and the rest of the family can rely on your kindness in the days and in the weeks and years ahead. To Tegan and our beautiful granddaughters, Maeve, poet, she was a fierce protector and the proudest mother and grandmother, and she thought the sun shone out of all of you. She would talk to Tegan 10 times a day. Every thought was worth sharing. Every funny story or photo of the girls was instantly shared. I know that Tegan misses that aspect of their relationship terribly. You know, even today, Maeve's transition at school, the first thing she does is send a photo to Lolly. You know. I don't think that can ever be replaced. But know that I'm here for you all. I'm grateful for the friends that have rallied around her and the girls, and to Ash for the support that she's received and continues to receive. As Gina mentioned, our relationship started in an unusual way. I was a bit of a stalker, I've got to say. I was absolutely certain that someone as awesome as Kaz would already have a partner, so I didn't want to ever ask her out and then have her say, oh, that's great, can my husband come too? So I got Peggy on the job. So thank you, Peggy. She's now up there with Kaz for the scouting mission. We agreed to go out for a coffee, of course, and then Kaz immediately left for a trip to Lightning Ridge, and I didn't see her for days. But we texted for hours on end until her phone went flat, and she had to wake up her friends Rosie and Paul, who had the little motorhome and the only power socket in Lightning Ridge, so that she could charge up her phone to continue the conversation. Drove her mad, but that was the start of something amazing. About that time, I messaged Mel, who ended up being the best man at our wedding, and I declared to him with absolute certainty that I had found the woman of my dreams. At that stage, we had never spent more than a few minutes together, but I knew. As our relationship grew, we both had itchy feet and a desire to travel together. Kaz had recently been to Bali and the Northern Territory trip in the Wicked van. And although our first trip to Hong Kong didn't go exactly as planned and ended up with a breakup, we got ourselves sorted out. And eventually I proposed in May 2012 and we said, well, if we're going to get serious, we better move in together. And I moved into the house at Duke's Road. Not long after, we bought our place in Bruthen that we're in today, and we moved into that in January 2013. We'd both been married before, and we're basically starting from scratch. We were rebuilding our lives, and we were doing it together. Coincidentally, our first wedding was on the same day, 20th of January 1990. Margie and I, who got married in the morning, would have driven past Mark and Carolyn's wedding in the afternoon in Traralgon on the way to our honeymoon. Carolyn and my wedding on the 2nd of November 2013 was just held in the middle of the main street in Bruthen, followed by a fire pit, pig on a spit, at the Bruthen Hall, with a tinny filled with ice as an esky, and Loz got his welding apparatus and tacked together a whole fire pit thing at the back of the hall, and everybody had a turn spinning the pig. It was the most fun and love-filled wedding imaginable. We both had the greatest day. And most of the guests that were there that day are here today. Sadly, we've lost a few, but these people have remained important people in our lives. The house needed renovations. The house is 110 years old. But our desire to travel took precedence. There's too much to see and we've got to go and do it. So Kaz had long service leave, and we decided we'd planned a 4-month trip around the UK and Western Europe, with a couple of weeks cruising through Asia, calling in to see Gordon, who was living in France at the time. Every chance we had, we'd try and go somewhere new. We went to Vegas and down the coast of Mexico with Mario, Mary, Laura, Tiny, and a whole bunch of other people. But travel was something that we just had to do. We always had a plan. There was always somewhere else that we wanted to go. I have been, and I'm very grateful to have been adopted by Kaz's many friends, who are now family to me. Kaz and I always had a future trip in the pipeline to keep us motivated. We were never wanted to be just working away to pay the bills. Kaz understood people, their motivations, their fears, their anxieties, and could really get to how they ticked. She had a gift of understanding people with dementia and finding ways for them to still have a voice and feel heard. It was beautiful to watch. She was brilliant. She also spent a lot of time understanding herself. Most people here would describe Kaz as an extrovert, the life of the party, able to start a riot in an empty warehouse. If there was fun to be had, a celebrity to be near, a music event or an adventure, she was front and centre. The ultimate rock chick. Whether it's an Irish band at the Lake Tyers Tavern, an international stadium gig of 80,000 people, a cheesy tribute band at the Cherry Bar, or an Outback festival, Kaz was always up for it. She loved to collect experiences, not things. Most people, though, would be surprised to know that Carolyn was mostly an introvert and needed long periods of peace and quiet to regain her energy. Our home and sanctuary is usually a very tranquil place. I was blessed to know this side of Kaz. This was where the wise and insightful Kaz could be found, sharing her unique view of the world and the people in it. I saw the scared, vulnerable Kaz, whose experiences in the world hadn't always been kind to her. Those unkind experiences, though, did not define her. She never adopted a victim mentality. Kaz always struggled privately with her own self-image. If only she had seen herself through my eyes. Through the eyes of others. Pardon me. Kaz loved people. She often didn't like some of their behaviours, but she absolutely allowed people to be themselves and accepted them exactly how they were. If you were one of Carolyn's close people, then that was a gift of immeasurable value. A more loyal and compassionate friend you would not find. In recent years, she's cared for our dear friend Laurie, who was such a significant part of her path to sobriety and whose family has become our own. Compassion and empathy were cornerstones of her work in the aged and disability sector. She was a terrific advocate and a genuinely caring part of their care circle. I learned so much working alongside her, and she was actually a very good boss. Very occasionally she would have to go, "Adrian, I am speaking to you now as your boss, not as your wife." And I knew that I'd made a mess of something. But she was always fair. She was always fair. To Kaz, integrity was everything. And like pregnancy, you can't just have a little bit of it. Kaz would only allow people to stay in her close circle if you had it. Dishonesty was poison. She expected people to maintain a high standard, but brutal honesty and impeccable integrity is not often received as well as you might think it'd be. She disliked the political characteristics of the corporate world, where other agendas or outcomes took precedence, and she at times butted heads, particularly with the hierarchy. Kaz had an incredible sense of social justice, and despite all the evil in the world, tried to find the good in people. She struggled terribly when presented with an unjust situation, or where the power imbalance was so great that a just solution was unable to be reached. Why can't it be just cabbages for cabbages, she'd say. I never really understood what it meant, but that was her way of saying this just isn't fair. What a force of nature she was. If she was in your corner, she would go to any lengths to help you achieve. Not necessarily to do it for you, but to empower and to support you to achieve it for yourself. She would absolutely believe in you until you believed in yourself. And I have been the beneficiary of that gift many times. I loved Kaz's passion for life, to be out there experiencing life and all it has to offer. I will be forever grateful that she chose me to be her person and that we were able to love life together. We have packed an amazing journey into 12 short years. We both hoped it would be for many more. There is an unexpected gift in cancer, and that's time. Time to really understand what is important. Time to nurture the relationships that really matter. Time to repair bridges that have been damaged or broken. Someone recently said to me that they hoped that in time I would look back on this time with Kaz with happiness. I can tell you that I look at all of our 12 years with happiness and gratitude every single day. Although they're now tinged with sadness. I know that photos and songs and places will trigger a memory that will sting for a minute. And there is nowhere at home that doesn't remind me of her. But when I think of why the moment or song meant so much, I have to acknowledge the sad feeling, but remember the moment with fondness or happiness. I love her so much, and it is so very difficult to let go. But deep grief is the cost of great love. And I wouldn't swap a second of it. One of the gifts that we had in the last 2 weeks of her life was a cuddle bed. Many of you won't have heard of it. But instead of a standard hospital bed, it's bigger. And so even at her sickest, when she was closest to passing away, I was still able to share and sleep with her. What I would like people to do if they feel compelled is to make a donation to BRHS, the Rothermar ward, so that they can purchase a second one of those. There's a room 11 just has a standard hospital bed. And I know that some have contributed already. If you're so compelled, please help us make a donation in Carolyn's name to help other people in the next horrible journey that they've got to go through. Whether she was Kaz, Cal, Carolyn, Lolly, or even Caroline, or just simply Mum or Mama Bear, she would not want us drowning in our grief, as difficult as some days will of course be. She would want us to get up, get out, and make the most of every single day. Tell your people that you love them. Leave nothing unsaid. And remember, life is too short for shit coffee.
Well, to Dave, Mary, Tegan and Adrian, thank you so much for those beautiful tributes. I think that you covered those beautiful qualities that everyone here will remember Carolyn for, and they were beautiful, amazing tributes and memories that you had to share. I know everyone here has their own special stories and memories of Carolyn, and a lovely way to continue sharing those and to celebrating her life is to join the family when we do conclude here today at Club Eastwood over in East Bairnsdale. I know that her family warmly invite you to join them and continue celebrating her life in a less formal setting, so there's a warm invitation for you to join them there. Now, a really special way to relive someone's life is through photos, And of course, music is such an important part of Carolyn and Adrian's life together, and some really awesome songs have been chosen today. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy this very special photo presentation of Carolyn's life.
If I had the blueprint or the brain, I would build an aeroplane. I'd fashion wings of balsa wood and glue, and I would fly to you. I'd carve a prop from old recycled wood halves, all these relentless could haves, these pointless might have beens. All the storms that I would gladly battle through, so I could fly to you. Had I the method or the means, I would build a time machine. I'd make it from the scraps you always find when someone leaves their broken dreams behind. And I'd fuel it with the beats that my heart misses when you sign your name with kisses made of axes. When you text me, it's so silly, but any fuel and any fire will do. I will fly to you. And I'd carve a prop from old recycled wood halves, all these relentless could haves, these pointless might have beens. Oh, the storms that I would gladly battle through, so I could fly to you. Oh, the storms that I would gladly battle through, so I could fly to you. We're the fortunate ones, spinning round the sun, just getting through the nights, counting down the days. We're all different but the same. I don't pretend to understand the master plan, but I make the most of every breath along the way. 'Cause it's great to be alive. Sit back, enjoy the ride. Love somebody when you get the chance. Sing out loud, hear your own song. Take time to get along, 'cause it ain't hard to see. We're all dreaming underneath the same lucky stars. Same lucky stars. Take somebody's hand, write it in the sand. It's falling through the glass, it goes way too fast. Make memories while you can, don't matter where you land. 'Cause it's great to be alive. Sit back, enjoy the ride. Love somebody when you get the chance. Sing out loud, hear your own song. Take time to get along, 'cause it ain't hard to see. We're all dreaming underneath the same lucky stars. The same lucky stars. I don't pretend to understand the master plan, but I make the most of every breath along the way. 'Cause it's great to be alive. Sit back, enjoy enjoy the ride. Love somebody when you get the chance. Sing it loud, do your own song. Take time to get along, 'cause it ain't hard to see. We're all dreaming underneath the same lucky star. The same lucky star. The same lucky star. The same lucky star. The fortune ones just spinning round the sun.
If I ever leave this world alive, well, thank you for the things you did in my life. If I ever leave this world alive, I'll come back down and sit beside your feet tonight. Wherever I am, you'll always be more than just a memory. If I ever leave this world alive, if I ever leave this world alive, I'll take on all the sadness that I left behind. If I ever leave this world alive, the madness that you feel will soon subside. So in a word, don't shed a tear. I'll be here when it all gets weird. If I ever leave this world alive. So when in doubt, just call my name. Just before you go insane. If I ever leave this world, hey, I may never leave this world. But if I ever leave this world alive, she says, I'm okay, I'm alright. Though you have gone from my life, you said that it would. Now everything should be alright. She says, I'm okay, I'm alright. Though you have gone from my life, you said that it would. Now everything should be alright. Yeah, should be alright.
Well, some very special photos and some wonderful memories. On the inside cover of your order of service, there's a reading titled She Is Gone. It's one that Adrian has chosen to include today, and they are beautiful words to share as we prepare to say farewell. You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she is gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you could do what she would want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Well, today has been a reminder of just how short life really is and how we are all simply just passing through. We know that you should have had more time with Carolyn, but we can't live our lives thinking about all the things that might have been. It's important that today we remember the things that you are happy for, the moments that made Carolyn smile, and in time, I hope these things will help you all smile again. In the coming days and weeks, when you spend time reflecting on all the things you did have with her, I'm sure the underlying feeling will be that you are all better people for having known her. Before we conclude, I would like to thank you all once again for being here to pay your respects and for the messages, the calls, the visits, and the outpouring of love. A special thanks must go to the staff in the Rothermar ward at the hospital and the oncology unit. You were all amazing, and to Luke Williams and the palliative care team. Carolyn's family are really so grateful for the care. It was so much appreciated at such a difficult time. Well, life has a funny way of teaching us. It will create a deep sadness so that we will know how to truly understand happiness. It will create chaos in our lives so that we may know the peaceful times, and it will take those we love away from us so that we will truly understand what their presence has meant. Carolyn's presence will be deeply missed, but it will be the beautiful memories of how she has impacted your life that will remain in your hearts forever. Life is short and every moment is precious. And if there was just one thing that Carolyn would want us to take from today, it would be to cherish life and don't sweat the small stuff. As you all leave here this afternoon, remember we are only given today and never promised tomorrow. So make sure you tell all the people who are special in your life that you love them. We know that Carolyn would want that. Carolyn, may you rest in peace with the certain knowledge that our love goes with you. Thank you.
I never meant to call you in your sorrow. I never meant to call you in your pain. I'm the one who wants to have you laughing. I only want to see you laughing in the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple leader, but you can't seem to make up your mind. I think you better close it and let me guide you to the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. You know what I'm saying about up here? Come on, raise your hand. Purple rain, purple rain.